Okay, 1.1, we're just going to review what lines are. So here we go. Part 1, to find the slope of a line, it's rise over run. That's what you would have learned in Algebra 2, pre-calculus, and college algebra. Another way to remember this is delta y over delta x. This little triangle is called delta. Delta means a change in y over a change in x. The formula that we use also in Algebra 2 is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So in these two problems, we're going to find the slope. 5, 2, and 6, 3. I'm just going to write the formula down. Y minus y over x minus x. It's the second y minus the first y, second x minus the first x. So I'm going to put 3 minus 2 on the top because those are my y values. 6 minus 5 on the bottom. We're going to get 1 over 1, which the slope is a positive 1. You're going to find out that that's what we're going to study for the rest of the year is slopes. Another name for slope is a derivative, but we'll get into that into the next chapter too. Let's find the slope of this one. 3 minus 3 over a negative 2 minus 4, which ends up being 0 over a negative 6, which is equal to 0. Remember, in Algebra 2, if you have a number on the top divided by 0, so the opposite of that, this is undefined, no slope. You can never have 0 in the denominator in math. Okay, these are the different types of equations of a line. AX plus BY equals C. You guys know that as the standard form of a line. Y equals MX plus B is called the slope-intercept form of a line because the M stands for the slope and the B stands for the y-intercept. The M stands for the slope and the B stands for where it crosses the y-axis. And the last one, this is the one we're going to use all the way to the end of the year. This is the one that we're going to use. It's called slope point equation of a line. Slope is the M, and you need to know a point, which is x1, y1. This is the one we're going to use for the rest of the year. We don't use those other ones. We don't use AX plus BY equals C a lot. Maybe once in a while. We don't use Y equals MX plus B. In calculus, we use Y2 minus Y1 equals MX2 minus X1. So here we go. Here's the example. They give you the slope, M equals a negative 1, and they give you a point, which is a negative 1 and 1. So we're going to use the formula y minus y equals mx minus x. I don't really fill in the little 1 and the little 1 over here. I just know I need to fill in the m, the second x, and the second y. And that will give you the equation of the line that goes through this point and has this type of a slope. So in place of m, I put a negative 1. In place of x, I'm going to put a negative 1. And in place of y, I'm going to put a 1. So I'm going to get y minus 1 equals a negative 1. 2 negatives equal a positive, which gives me x plus 1. Which gives me y equals, well, let's make it y minus 1 first. Let's do the famous distributive property to get a negative x minus 1. And then all I'm going to do is add 1 to both sides, so y equals a negative x. This equation of a line, it looks like this, you guys. That's what it looks like. Y equals a negative x. It has a slope of a negative 1, and it goes through 0, 0. It also goes through a negative 1, 1, just like it says. So you can do the same thing given 2 points. Again, what do we use? Y minus y equals mx minus x. This is the one. You can go and ask anybody in AP Calculus from last year or the year before. This is all we use is y minus y equals mx minus x. We're filling in the x, the second y, and the m. So let's figure out what the slope is in this problem. We're going to go over here to find m. We know how to find m. You do y minus y, second y minus the first y, second x minus the first x. 2 minus a negative 2 is a positive 4, and you're going to get a negative 1 here, so you're going to get a negative 4 for your slope. So in place of m, I'm going to put a negative 4. It says that the line goes through both of these points, so it doesn't matter which one you use for your x and y. I like using the first one. It doesn't matter. In place of x, I'm going to put a negative 3, which makes it a positive 3. And in place of y, I'm going to put a negative 2, which ends up being a positive 2. And then I'm going to do the famous distributive property, which gives me a negative 4x minus 12. So y equals a negative 4x minus 14. Okay, before I go on to the next slide, I want to tell you where they came up with this very, very important formula that we're going to use for the rest of the year. It's called, again, point slope formula. Why is it called point slope formula? You need to know a point to do it, and you need to know the slope in order to do this formula. I'm going to show you where they came up with this. So doesn't slope, which stands for m, equal y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1? All they did was they multiplied both sides by x2 minus x1 to get it out of the denominator. If you look at this, and you look at this one up above, which is that one right here, it's the same thing, except it's reverse. The m is here, the m is here, you still have the 2 x's, you still have the 2 x's, and you have the y and the y. You've known this formula since you've learned the m is equal to y minus y over x minus x. So that is where they got this formula, and that is why we're going to use this for the rest of the year. Okay, let's talk about perpendicular and parallel lines, which should be reviewed from Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Given y is equal to 2/3 x plus 4, you're supposed to find a parallel and a perpendicular line that goes through the point 3, 2. So we're going to get used to doing y minus y equals mx minus x. We're going to write it down twice. Y minus y equals mx minus x. The first one is going to be for the parallel lines, and the second one is going to be for the perpendicular line. They give you the point 3, 2, so I know my y value is 2, and I know my x value is 3. I can do the same thing over here. I know my y value is 2, and I know that my x value is 3. What's different in this problem is that if it's parallel to this equation, it needs to have the same slope. And the slope in this problem is 2/3. So this one has to be 2/3. And I know for it to be perpendicular, which is right here, it needs to be opposite reciprocal. Opposite is a negative, and the reciprocal of 2/3 is a -3/2. The last thing I'm going to do is simplify this. You're going to do the famous distributive property. 2/3 of x is 2/3 x. 2/3 of a -3 is a -2. And the last thing I have to do is add 2 to both sides. 2/3 x plus 0. If you don't want to put the 0, you don't have to, but it just shows you where it crosses the y-axis. And the other one is y minus 2 equals a -3/2 x plus, because 2 negatives equal a positive, 9/2. If you don't like 9/2, you can change it to 4.5. Y is equal to a -3/2 x. If you add 2 to 9/2, if you add 2 to 4.5, it makes a positive 6.5. If I graph these two, I can if you want me to, they should be perpendicular to each other because their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. Okay, the next couple I think we're on the last page of notes already. You're supposed to write an equation for a vertical line and a horizontal line that runs through a -8 and 11. So I like drawing a picture of this. I'm going to count by 2's. A -2, a negative, this is a -2, this is a -4, -6, -8, and then up 11. We'll put you about right there is a -8, 11. I'm supposed to draw a vertical line through a -8, 11 and a horizontal line through a -8, 11. All vertical lines start with the letter X. All horizontal lines start with the letter Y. X is equal to a -8 and Y is equal to a positive 11. I came up with a vertical line and a horizontal line. Okay, you all picked up your books already. I want you guys to open up your books to page 6 to learn how to read graphs in this book. And then I think we just got one more thing to talk about and we're done with notes. So everybody open up your books to page 6. If you don't have your book, why don't you pause this to find your book? Okay, I'm at page 6 already in my book. And what you are doing is you're looking at the graph that kind of looks like it's green to the left. And you're looking at that little green graph over there. And I want to read how to read a graph for the rest of this book. So you have a -5 to 7. And then it says by a -2 to 6. So if you're looking at your book, this is the interval for the domain, which are your x values. This is the interval for your range, which is your y values. So if you counted to the left, you should have had 5 dashes. The last dash is the box that it makes. So you started at x at a -5 and you went to a +7. And remember, the range starts from a negative to a positive, so you started at a -2 to a +6. It's really important that you know how to read graphs for the rest of this chapter, or for this book. I'm trying to find another one for you. Let's look at, let me see if I can find another one that doesn't count by that. Sometimes it'll say, like, it'll give you 1, 2, and then the third box will look like this, and then it'll go 1, 2, and then there'll be that. It'll say you're going from a -6 to a +6 by, and so on. Well, if you're going from a -6 to a +6 for your x values, you know that you're counting by 2's. So you really have to watch and how to read a graph in this book. Okay, the last thing is called the line of regression curve. You need to use your calculator to learn how to fit your line of regression. So I'll give you time to grab your calculator. So everybody grab your TI-84 calculator. You had an assignment over the summertime. You had to figure out how to use your TI-84 calculator. So everybody should have a TI-84 calculator. And if you don't, I have some old ones in my room that are the black and white ones. There are colored ones nowadays. But if you don't have a TI-84, I like buying the TI-84 Plus Color Edition. I think it's called the CE Color Edition. If you don't have one, I can give you one when you pick up your book. So I will be emailing you over the summertime anyway to see if you have a TI-84. I know Miss Houghton uses the Inspire calculator. When you, at the end of the year, when you take your CLEP test, you have to take it online for your CLEP test. What shows up on your CLEP test when you take is the TI-84 calculator. The Inspire does not show up. You have to know how to use a TI-84 calculator for that reason. So, either you have your own calculator, I gave you one of my calculators. This is how you load things into your calculator. So, there's a big button that says Stats. So everybody locate that. And when you hit the button Stats, you'll see it says Edit. So I want you to hit Enter Edit. And under Edit, you see a list 1 and a list 2 and a list 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these points into my calculator. These are my X values and these are my Y values. This is my X column. This is going to be my Y column. So all you're going to do is you're just going to load into your calculator under list 1. You're going to load 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, enter, and 4, enter. So you load it under list 1, the X values. And then you're going to go up under L2 and load your Y values. What I'm going to use is I'm going to use a calculator to come up with my best fit line. Instead of doing y minus y equals mx minus x, well, let's just do it just to show you. The slope in the problem is 6 take away 5, 2 take away 1. My slope is 1 when I do it. I can pick any one of these points to plug in here. I'm going to just do the first one, x minus 1, y minus 5. And I get y minus 5 equals x minus 1. So y is equal to x plus 4. Instead of using that, I'm going to show you that you can use your calculator to find out that it's y is equal to x plus 4. So everybody have under L1 and L2 the x and y values, correct? Okay, go back and hit the stats button. Everybody went back and hit the stats button. And when you look under your stats button, you'll see edit, calculate, and test. Everybody see edit, calculate, and test? I want you to arrow over to calculate. And we're only doing one variable stats, which is number 1. Everybody hear what I just said? One variable stats, which is number 1. And then all you're going to do is arrow down to calculate. And it's going to give me, sorry, that was for algebra, sorry. Let's go back to stats, go back to calculate one more time. And I don't need to do one variable stats. I don't need to know the mean, the median, and the mode. I need to figure out the line of regression. The name of this is a line. So look for line of regression, which is number 4 down there. So go down to number 4 and hit number 4. And then you're going to go down and hit calculate. And you're going to see, this is what you're going to see when you hit calculate, y equals ax plus b. Why couldn't they use the m, and the b, but they used an a, and they're saying a is equal to 1, which stands for the slope, and they're saying that b is equal to 4, which stands for the b, so the equation is y equals x plus 4, and that's exactly what we got. So let's do another one. So let's go back to stats, let's go back to edit, let's clear both columns. So I want you to put your cursor up to L1. Everybody put your cursor up to L1 where it's blinking, and hit the clear button when you put your cursor up to L1 and hit enter. It just cleared that whole column. Let's go up to L2 and hit clear and hit enter, and it just cleared that. Let's just come up with another one. Let's come up with 4, 2, 5, 5, and 6, 8, and 7, 12. And let's find the line of regression for these 4 points. These are the X's and these are the Y's. So under L1, I'm going to put 4, 5, 6, and 7. Under the L2, I'm going to put 2, 5, 8, and 12. And what we're doing is finding the closest. Here's 4, and here's 2. Here's 5, here's 6 and 8, and here's 7 and 12. What we're doing is we're coming up with the most basic equation that would fit these 4 points. And we're going to use your calculator to do this. So under L1, I put 4, 5, 6, 7. Under L2, I put 2, 5, 8, 12. Now what do we have to do? Go back to stats. Go back to calculate. And I want to do a line of regression, which is number 4. Okay, I want to talk about the other ones, but let's hit the line of regression. And it just says X list, Y list, and I want to go all the way down to calculate to figure out what my line is. And it'll say that Y equals AX plus B. Y is equal to 3.3X minus 11.4 is my line that's going to be closest to that one. Okay, I want you to go back to stats again, and I want you to go back to calculate. We're later on going to learn how to use a line of regression. Underneath that is quadratic regression. So they're going to give you points later on in this book that might look like this. And you have to come up with the most basic quadratic equation. The next one is a cubic equation. You might have to come up with a snake equation. The next one is a quartic, which is to the 4th power. And then if you arrow down, number 9 is natural log, number 10 is exponentials, and logistics. These are all equations. Given points, you can come up with an equation. So keep that in mind. We're going to use all of these, not just line of regression. That is all the notes for 1.1.